A content creator is a user that creates posts and is rewarded based on the quality of their content. A content evaluator is a user that helps assess the quality of content and enforces community standards. The evaluator is effectively taking part in a marketplace to curate content and is rewarded for early evaluation. A content consumer is a user that wishes to find and consume the most valuable content in a given subject area or within a community. A lair owner is a person holding tokenized ownership of all or part of a community lair. Owners are rewarded with a portion of all mining activity happening within their lair. Owners are incentivized to build the best community of content creators and evaluators.
What's up, denizens? Welcome, ladies and gents, boys and grills. What's another one?
Oh God,
ladies and germs, to the 35th episode of Coffee with Den. It's another Wednesday. We're gonna have some coffee.
I've done like 30 of these now.
Yeah, 35.
Actually,
35.
No,
yeah.
You've done the first 4. I missed one, so I've done like 30 something.
Fair enough. So we're going to talk about what's hot on Den, some updates, the new layers that went live, new category of layers that went live, current events maybe.
I guess there's
politics
a whole new category now. The not safe for work category counts.
Yeah, it's a whole new world.
And it works really well.
Fantastic point of view. No one to tell you no or where to go.
So for our people that are
carpet ride.
So the people that are confused, for our usual humans that are here, welcome to On Location at my computer store job.
Heck yeah, man. Speaking of that, I heard that Jacob Wayne's hard drive is recoverable. I never gave you a spare to help that out with.
Oh, you're fine. He sent me a drive. I'm currently
but he said he
it
might.
as we speak.
Fantastic. Good.
It's currently on a laptop that is not as quick as I would like it to be, so I may make another attempt differently here. But
You should probably just do something else and let it take longer.
Yeah, I probably should just leave it be because it could run over the weekend. It'd be fine. There's so much data on it, but yeah.
Good.
Linux to save the day as usual.
Yeah. What did you use? I'm curious. Let's dive right into a tech topic.
I don't really know 100% what I did to it. I took the whole drive apart and basically.
Oh, no. What software are you using?
I'm literally just using for the actual moving over the drive. I was just using rsync to do that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Because I would rather do it through command line, but it's hung up on one file and I'm not sure why. So I'm letting it do it differently now. So
dope. All right. Well, let me know if you need any weird tools. You know how I love PhotoRec.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that. That's not a bad idea. Could you use PhotoRec to like drop a whole drive from point A to point B?
Yes and no. So here's the thing with PhotoRec is it doesn't give a shit about your partitioning or your file system layout.
Or if half the files are garbage, it just is
or if there's 2 file systems installed on top of each other, or if your master boot records corrupt, or it doesn't give a shit. You can say, here's what partitions and file systems I think are on it, and here's what type of files I think I'm looking for. And what it'll do is it'll go through looking for patterns and flags, even if they've been marked as deleted files, and even if they're not on a like a file system, a file tree anywhere. It literally like looks at the ones and zeros and is like, oh, this pattern is usually this kind of image. Let's recover that.
There's data here. Honestly, I've used PhotoRec here a couple of times for people that have like nuked their like SD card from their camera or something. And
so that's what it's specifically used for. That PhotoRec was originally for flash media, for cameras, for recover.
You like my work mug? This is my Microsoft
that's
Windows
fantastic
run from a long time ago. I think it got given to Craig.
I'm still doing the old Captain Albert Alexander over here. I haven't worn him out quite yet.
As a Mesopotamian god.
Before we move on to that, one quick pro tip on PhotoRec is if you're dumping a whole drive and looking for stuff, you're going to need to get swifty with some shell scripts so that you don't end up with a big conglomerate or a big blob of just all the data. Because you'll end up with millions of files and images that are thumbnails and images that are bigger. And then, it takes all the metadata and metadata.
I didn't even think about
everything.
I'm sure somebody's
Yeah.
got like a pile of scripts they've written and just
Yeah.
have it somewhere.
So what you can do is you can make it like, okay, as you go through, if you find anything above this file size, put it in the big files folder, so I know where the actual full res images are, and not
See, that's cool. I didn't even
not
know
the
that was
other
like
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
So
if I
cool.
ever have to actually do that again, that'll be pretty
Shout
useful.
out to Test Disk and PhotoRec teams, free open source software to save
That's
your
something
life.
you showed me. That's something that you showed me back when we were at the workshop. I remember
That's
that.
something. Once we wrap that, we should probably write up Jacob Wayne's hard drive in the Linux layer.
Oh yeah,
Data
just be
recovery,
the
that
pile
kind
of
of thing.
bull crap that I did
Yeah.
to get the data.
Oh, cross posting to the DIY layer too, because that's something that just won. So let's hop into that. What's been going on Den?
Sure. We have a bunch of comments and stuff too.
That's not
today,
a very
which is
good shape for my window. Hold on a second. Let me do this.
It must be larger.
Yeah, it's got to be better. There we go. So what do we got? Typically, the title will just be like whatever's new that we're going to talk about. But this time, we're going to talk about whatever's new and decide what that is, and without knowing it first. Sometimes that's the way.
Without going into it. Very off the cuff morning.
We do definitely have all the layers to talk about, so that's cool. Oh, I've been misspelled not 4 work.
I've noticed that a couple of times and just haven't said anything about it.
Yeah, just whatever. And what else? There's really good topics in the reply section. So let's hit that already right off the bat. For anybody who is, I threw a little shout out, going live in 5. So for anybody who tuned in, let's go ahead and hit the questions and the replies first before we just talk about whatever coffee brings us into conversation.
We have some of our usual ones down here.
I like this one from Passport Gang because I would love to do this, but it's illegal. It's not. It's what's the word? Not illegal. It is against U.S. Regulations as interpreted by the currently enforcing regulatory body. But they're enforcing decades-old securities laws as if they apply to a new asset class that acts totally different. So the question:
we'll get mad and talk about laws later.
Yeah, that's great. We'll pivot into politics too. It'll be fantastic today. Passport Gang says, how can we leverage our biggest asset, being the community, a social platform, and use it to potentially create something great and profitable? Example: Den.social creates a coin. We send in ETH, BNB, USDC, etc. And Den.social invests that into staking, where bigger pay is better, or start mining, and the coin we get back is a portion of the profits based on how much we donated.
See, that would be cool, but that does sound mildly illegal.
Yeah, so that is that from what I've been reading so far. Now this is not how I think that I'm not a lawyer, right? I have no idea. I've never attempted to study. We do have access to them, and I've never attempted to even study the bar, much less pass it. But I've been reading a lot of what's happening with Ripple, XRP. That's the most important thing happening right now, I think, in the crypto sphere. Yes.
So I was
number one.
Texting you about that weeks ago.
No. So the single most important thing happening right now is Ripple Labs challenging the SEC on their own messaging and their own email deliberation about whether or not what they're doing violated their securities regulations.
From a layman's standpoint, because I hear about the whole Ripple Labs thing and everything. I hear about this from my father-in-law, who I love dearly, but he's very loud. So what on earth was the even initial problem?
Okay, so this stems, and I won't go super deep into it because I could spend a lot of time on this.
We can go like mild deep into it, though.
Yeah, mildly deep.
It pertains to the question.
It does pertain to the question. Let me just scroll down and get more of the. There we go. Bribery. Okay, so all right. Here's what's in a nutshell, as I understand it. Not legal advice for anybody who's trying to figure out what's legal and what's not to do. That's not what I'm saying. Right now, we're in an epic battle over orange groves. Oranges, like you grow them in Florida, right?
Okay.
So, because of oranges, we have modern securities law or regulation. And so there's this thing called, I bet I can look it up right here. We have the internet, the Howey test. Have you heard of the Howey test? Howey test, USA. How do I find this? Very stupid. That should come up.
Yeah, that should bring it up.
The Howey test in itself is not very stupid. The way it's trying to be twisted and applied today is what's very stupid. So is there an infographic? Because this is infographic stuff. I don't need to read a paragraph here. So Howey test, I can just take off the very stupid.
You might
That's a wrong Howey.
We ended up with Howie Mandel.
All right. So the Howey-Mandel test is, I'll just explain it off the top of my head.
He's so strange looking.
I like him. I don't know. I also watch a lot of Iron Chef and things like that. So I'm used to people that look like that. Howey test. Okay. So Howey test, here's what happened. Somebody named Howey entered into some legal arrangements with a bunch of people who wanted to invest in orange groves. He sold them the idea of orange groves and specifically told them that they didn't have to do anything themselves. All they had to do was give him their money, and then he would take their capital, and he would because he's the guy that knows how to use. You have the money, I know how to use it. Give it to me, I'll use it. We'll all profit, and you get a portion of the proceeds based on the percentage of the orange groves that we all bought together.
That explains the selling securities part.
Yeah. So what happened was he did that, and then he didn't do the orange groves.
It just sounds kind of clever, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Right. It's like, hey man, I'm gonna buy you this oceanfront property in Arizona. You just gotta give me money, man, and it's your part of it's yours.
That's like you
come have a room sometime.
I don't remember what his name was, but there's a guy that sold the Eiffel Tower twice. Good morning.
I believe that. Yeah, and I believe that
times as a scrap company.
I think I heard that. The story was they're going to scrap it, and he was giving it to them for the scrap metal.
Yeah, essentially he was selling it. He sold it for like 120 grand in, I think it was like 1890, something like that.
That's awesome. So they have this thing called the 3 prongs. There's 4 prongs, I think, really, but the 3 and 4 are kind of like so close that it's called the 3 prongs of the Howey test. And what they do is they go after. Okay, here's where I inject my personal opinion on how it's applied today, because this was 40 years ago or however long ago, right? So today, what we're seeing is a new .com era where legacy businesses are at risk of becoming obsolete, and those legacy corporations and the oligarchs that control the political system in the U.S. have directed the SEC to squash the competition through regulation so that they don't have to compete or innovate. Right now, that's my personal opinion of what's going on.
I'd wager that that might stretch a wee bit farther than a personal opinion. I think that's a lot of people's personal opinion on that scenario right now.
And so because of that, the SEC is picking and choosing who to go after. And it seems to be based solely on how innovative and how dangerous it is to incubate business people, right? YouTube, for example, is probably why libraries being sued, because they are a direct disruption of YouTube's model.
Right.
Ripple itself, right, disrupts the legacy banking system in a way where you can do settlement among banks internationally or locally or in securities exchanges when there's like high frequency trading and weird shit that needs to be settled without third parties and without the overhead of having a bunch of fat in the middle who just do nothing and take money, right? So the problem is we've got a whole bunch of people in control of the nation whose legacy is built on a farce, and they don't want to actually work. So they're just going to sue out the competition. Again, my personal opinion. So the answer to my question is I'm not going to even pretend that this will ever be done in the U.S. until sometime after the case is over with Ripple, sometime after the case is over with library.
In which they would just find another reason to sue the ever living crap out of somebody.
And if the SEC does indeed bring charges against Dragon Chain, which they have already threatened to do, and if you haven't read that response from Dragon Chain, definitely go look that up.
Why do I feel like it's kind of like a nice milestone, though?
Yeah, I guess.
Like, technically, to us, that's kind of not a terrible thing. That means that we're
it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to educate the regulators, is what it is. In the best light, giving all benefits of all doubt. It's an opportunity to educate the regulators on something that they clearly either don't understand or are being paid to pretend that they don't understand. There's no other option there. So the response is really good. So what I'm saying is basically like, let's not fuck with that right now, because I'm not trying, you know what I mean? Like in the future, if there's better regulation in the US, or if the founders decide, fuck it, let's move to China. Probably not China.
Probably not the best place.
Yeah. It's way more outlawed in China. You can't
much larger problem.
It's way better in the US than China to do any of this. Anyway, my point is that there's ways that maybe this can be done leveraging Den that Den doesn't do. I think that's my kind of like the end of my thoughts on that, where what Den has is the ability for anybody to spin up a DAO, right? So what you do with that DAO within the limits of the law is up to you. So if you want to go do that and it's legal in your jurisdiction to do that, go for it. I don't care. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But it's not something that Den's going to do, because there's one of the prongs. I guess this is my actual point. One of the prongs of the quote unquote Howey test to determine how much they're going to stomp your balls is the idea that if you are going to do all the work and the investors are going to do none, but they expect to get profits based on the work that you do alone solely, then it is a security. That's what they say anyway, right? So the way that this is like, we give a bunch of stuff to Den does the thing, and then we make money off of it. That's not how it would work.
Den does the thing.
How it could work is that you could start a DAO, right? Which, like we have with Sticky DAO already, which is on. And if you haven't, maybe give them time to finish what they're writing, because they're finishing up a lot of writing and like basically like white paper stuff before launch. But HODL Signal is a new layer. They have a very interesting project, and that might be in line with what you're looking to do. They're So are you familiar, David, with the concept of a stable coin? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, they well, we had a really fun one stop being stable a while ago, but yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, more on that later.
So it's a stable value.
Yeah, usually. Well, it's a stable value relative to another asset is what it is. So you peg it to gold, or you peg it to the US dollar.
US dollar coin.
Yeah, and you have a bunch of ways that you try to automate keeping that peg, right? But you can peg it to anything. You can peg it to hamburgers, which would be my choice. You know what I mean? I would do it. I would if I was making a stable coin, I wouldn't peg it to the dollar. The dollar is a piece of shit. It's not. It's, you know what I mean? Like, we just printed most of the supply in the last few years.
Who made the hamburger analysis?
I don't know. It's a thing. It's a Wall Street thing.
Right. Okay. I could remember.
So you could tie it to the Big Mac index. What is the Big Mac index? Big Mac index is basically if you assume that there's a McDonald's in every country, and the local McDonald's is using the local infrastructure in that country, and the local menu is relatively the same. They all have Big Macs, and the Big Macs all have the same ingredients, lettuce, and I mean, within reason, the same ingredients. They got some big meat and some big lettuce and some Big Mac all in there. And if you assume those things, which is mostly true, then you can do an apples to apples comparison of an entire nation's currency and relative value based on the price of a Big Mac in all those countries. So if Big Mac go up, then you can make decisions on the Forex markets based on that.
So the Big Mac price is up over here. I might be able to make some cash if I trade this way.
Yeah. So it's a way to remove speculation from reality is what the attempt is. And so what HODL is doing is something similar, which is instead of pegging it to the dollar. Now I'm not speaking for them. I just had a brief conversation. I've looked over some of their stuff on their website that's being rewritten right now. But what they're doing is they're tying it to inflation. It's going to be pegged to commodities inflation.
Okay, that's cool.
So as inflation skyrockets, as we go through this cycle of hyperinflation globally, their token is going to be worth the same exact amount of value. It's just going to be worth more against other assets because it's pegged to inflation. It doesn't go up in value at all. It simply remains just as valuable as it ever was. It just seems like it's more valuable because the dollar crashed. So I think that's brilliant. I think that's amazing. So that's coming to Den. I think they want to. I don't want to speak for them, for example, but I think they're going to launch in like August or
I welcome them
whatever.
with open arms. That's such a good stab.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. So there's stuff like that, and you can do all kinds of stuff. I spilled some of the beans on what we're working on locally yesterday over in the Dragon Chain chat room, not in the lair post, but in the chat room we talked about it a little bit. But basically we're doing none of this is solid, none of it's 100%. It could all go away overnight. I'm not trying to say that here's what's happening for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's happening. We're gonna a local company who's got a lot of experience in commercial real estate, local experience too, and who really deeply cares about the community in Gainesville. So he's buying a building, used to be a furniture store, lots of floor space, lots of stuff to work with, and has already lined up 2, 3, maybe 4 tenants to rent. There's going to be a vinyl record shop where they manufacture them, not like a store, but like no customer facing, and they just take orders and they mass produce vinyl records for you. There's going to be probably, it looks like there's going to be a motorcycle shop, and then a concept called a ghost kitchen, which is something that's cool we can talk about. But the point is, he's going to buy that building and then sell it to the community, right? And right now, the working idea is that he sells control of the community through our governance tools on Den, which is super cool. So they can have a layer. Maybe the layer applies to that one building. Maybe it applies to the whole project. But in the end, they would like people to be able to buy up their own neighborhoods instead of being gentrified out of their home. You know what I mean? So right now we've got a big problem in Gainesville where, again, corruption, cheating, things like that. There's free money for developers who want to develop in slow income neighborhoods, right? Which on its face is not a bad thing. But the way it's being abused is we live in a college town. So there's a lot of kids here downtown near the college who technically on paper have low incomes. Now they also have daddy's money. They got plenty of money. They drive new cars. They eat out every night. They party. They go to the club. They drink up all the liquor. Plenty of money, but they're quote unquote low income on paper. So what happens? Developers get free money to develop in their area. And so you get all of the things like one of the big topics right now is Porter's in Gainesville. It's a neighborhood that's getting bought up and going away. The people there are not going to be able to afford the taxes after the property value goes up, that kind of thing. So what we could do is we could create a system where they could buy up their own property and rent it to themselves and tell the developers to fuck off. Right? It's something they can't do right now. It's an empowering thing. So there's a bunch of stuff related to like getting together and organizing something for the greater good. We just can't do it this way, I guess. Passport gang. Sorry. Thanks for the question though. Dope question.
Yeah, holy crap, that led to all kinds of stuff there.
Oh, I am for IAM's here. Awesome. Hey, hopefully my description of what's happening in the U.S. regulatory environment is doesn't give him an aneurysm, because he's much better at knowing what happens than I am behind the scenes. So thanks for joining us there. So let's go to the next one. Let's see. Unicorn.
Also, a side note, I am. This would be a fantastic day for you to chime in if you're available.
Oh, yeah.
Doing your thing.
So catching up 2x. Boom, boom,
Catching
boom.
up at 2x speed.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
and then gonna log in a few. So yeah, no
Oh,
rush.
wait.
Get caught up. That's fine. So let's see what Unicorn says. I saw in Den.social. So Den.social is a meeting we have every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And there's also, similar to this Wednesday show, there's also a link where you can join if you have stuff you want to talk about. So Den.social is a Den.social meeting, not a show. And we talk about more technical stuff, some roadmap stuff, developer like concerns, things like that. And so Unicorn saw on Den.social meeting that there was one part about negative voices. My experience is similar: 2 or 3 negative voices every day, sometimes more. In my opinion, these are trolls who go scroll down and give everyone negative votes. Since these negative ones turn into positive ones, if there's a consensus, I would ask them to give me more than 200 negative energy, not a miserable 21 or 34. So yeah, I agree with that. Unicorn's suggestion and the question of whether it's possible to do so. Insert the option of blocking a certain person on Den. If we suspect someone is giving us negative votes, we put them on a block list so they can't see and vote on our posts. Also, one more question: is it possible to implement some kind of troll runner, which I love the concept of?
What a good name.
All right. Is it possible to implement some kind of troll runner who recognizes profiles that give more negative votes than positive ones, or finds someone who gives 4 or 5 more negative votes in a few minutes? This is obviously a troll. So great question, great comments. I took the liberty of responding to most of these already. So read that. I do love the idea of a troll runner though. So I put as a little Blade Runner meme up here. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. What do you mean, you people? I love that movie so much. All right, so what's up?
I haven't seen it in a while. I was considering watching it the other day.
That's one, man. 2049 lives up.
I heard it was really good, and I heard that
good. Yeah,
Harrison would punch someone in the face. That just makes everything better.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I felt whenever I saw 2049 coming out, I was like, "Ooh, this could be great." It's probably gonna make me angry and disappoint me, though. It didn't at all.
It's like every time a new Ghostbusters film comes out, I'm just like, "Oh, this could be good," or I could be mad about it. Apparently, the new one was good.
Yeah, not the topic. So, what am I trying to think of? Yes, real quick clarification. It isn't as simple as all the negative votes flip positive. If there's consensus, there's more to it than that. But the net result is basically that. So the voting is a consensus-based thing, and the more people that vote in the consensus means you get a higher percentage of that energy value that's been applied to your positive energy weight, right? So technically, somebody could downvote you, which would reduce the percentage of the energy that applies to the mining algorithm every day per period. But since they're adding energy back into it, and you have more energy than you would have, it kind of counteracts that a bit. But there's a few percentage points of difference there, probably, right? What it does is it fixes the whale problem that we had in the past, where people would dump a bunch of negative energy on just to take rewards away from people, just to be an asshole, right? So it's not a perfect solution, but I don't think any solution should be perfect, in my opinion. So there's how that works. The question, is it possible? So I like the idea of a Blade Runner. That makes me think of what we had talked about before about if we ever need to elect officials per layer, right? That could be the name, like that. The Troll Runner could be the name of that official.
We're gonna have to at some point in the future.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like that applies to a concept we've talked about. Like how far in the future, I don't care. We'll get there one day. I'm in no hurry to get there. That's fine.
Tomorrow.
But yeah, that could be a thing. Like you could elect a local troll runner.
I like the concept of calling them local troll runners.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Their own little kingdom, the troll runner kingdom.
Yeah, the blocking thing.
We can do that already.
So that we can do. It's interesting to think about though, because you have to think about people. If you're trying to counteract something that somebody is specifically doing because they're trolling you, because they're trying to be a bad actor and disruptive, right? You can't give them tools to pivot to and abuse, right? So if you start making it to where you can block people from being able to vote on your content, that would mean that a troll could block a troll runner from voting on their content, for example, right?
Troll
So
runners get it.
so if you know who is voting on you negatively, you can just block them from voting on you, and then you could spam a bunch of bullshit that nobody else votes down on, and the end result is it doesn't help anything. You know what I mean? So I don't think we would do it that way, but we can block people. Like you can block like from seeing people's content, and the layers themselves can enforce voting reputation. Let me pull that up. Let's see if I can pull that up without doxing anything in my account.
Honestly, this probably blasted most of your information on the internet by accident.
Some, yeah. Let's go to reputation. So most layers don't use this, but what it's made for is this sort of problem where you have asshats, right? And you got to deal with them. So if you turn on reputation, you got all these options about stuff. One of them is vote, right? So let's see what vote says. So vote has 2 sliders: site reputation required, layer reputation required. 3 lines: and layer reputation threshold. This is probably one of the more misunderstood settings on Den, and it's probably why it doesn't get used much, but it's very, very powerful and useful and stuff. So brand new person comes in to the layer. They've never been in your layer before, but they've been on Den for a while. You can say, all right, we don't have any data on you, so we're just going to use whatever your site-wide Den reputation is. And in order for you to be allowed to vote in here, we need you to have a reputation score of like 3 stars, right? Once you have come in here and given us some content to evaluate for a while to figure out what kind of person you are, that's where this layer reputation threshold comes in. You're picking how many pieces of content needs to be evaluated, how many evaluations need to happen by the community, before you switch from site-wide reputation to layer reputation, right? So let's say a person has 13 replies, posts, they're voted on, they're evaluated. Now they have a layer reputation that is different from their site reputation, just for this layer. So you can say, all right, if you've been here, you've got 13 pieces of content, and you're not at least still a 3-star, right? Or you can make it 2-star. So you can say, okay, we're layer specific, so we can be a little looser, whatever. Then if you don't have this rep, at least, then you can't vote. Simple as that. Inside of that layer. You know what I mean? So that helps. Let me turn this back off. When you do this, and anybody who holds a lot for any layer can propose this. When you do this, write up a little description about what you're doing. I think we need help with this, and here's how I think I'm going to do it, and it makes sense, and chime in, and yada, yada. And then people will vote on it, right? It'll get proposed. It'll go into the list of proposals, and people can vote on it. So I'm not going to do that. And there's even more stuff too. You can drill down into user moderation if you want to, but there's tools. Is my point. So yeah, there's what I would say with that. It's got to be carefully modeled. We can have a discussion about it. That way we get a bunch of people to chime in case someone recognizes, like, okay, don't do it this way because of that.
Sees an issue that we're not thinking of off the bat.
Totally. So cool. Thanks, Unicorn. In fact, let me go tip these out so I don't forget. So we have heard from Passport Gang. I'll hand out 5 matter today. Thank you for that. And then let's see who else we got. We got Unicorn. 5 matter for you. Thank you very much. And then we've got Dragon Chain Hodler. Yeah, this was interesting. I saw you advertising Den.social on Den.social, and I've done the same. What about crypto socials to advertise Den.social smoothly to only people of interest? Any suggestions? So yesterday...
Yeah, what?
Yesterday I noticed Truth Social was trending on Twitter, right? And there's been there's been some disappointment on what was promised, the whole point of the thing. Ironically, they are apparently very ban happy.
Wow.
on Truth Social. So that's not ideal. There's been some scalability issues. There's been some behavioral issues. And so I simply was like, you know what? this is me on Twitter. I shit post. I don't do anything else. Right. Sometimes I'll say some things that I mean, but about 80% of it, don't follow me on Twitter. It's not a good idea. But if you're interested in like my insane brain, that's where it goes. So whenever I see stuff, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just throw like a plug into the wind. Oh, this topic is trending. So I was like, hey, if you're disappointed in Truth Social, we've got your shit ready over here on Den.social, and we're all the, like all the things that promised to be, we actually are. So come on in, that whatever I said. And then once I did that, I saw there was like immediately there was like 4 or 6 click-throughs to see what Den was. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So the next thing I did was I threw $150 at Twitter and said, hey, please run this some more, right? As an experiment. And just to see what would happen. So here's the results. Let me go into the Den layer here. Because I got the results this morning. It was supposed to be a 4 or 5 day ad campaign that I paid for, targeted advertising, but I got this morning. So Twitter sent me a message and says, Distant, your tweet has not been approved for use in your Twitter ads campaign. We have determined that the following tweet cannot be included in your Twitter ads campaigns.
Gee, I wonder why.
Well, they blamed it on me using the word shit.
Sure. Oh, of course. Twitter can't have the word shit on it.
Exactly.
That's
the literal reason, is because it has the word shit. So they're not going to allow it. So on the left this is like right after I tweeted it. I was like, oh, people are actually clicking on that. Sweet. Yeah. Hey Twitter, can you? Oh, it's 125, not 150. My bad. So I was like, hey Twitter, take my money. Can you targeted advertise this? The disgusting thing that I don't like to do. Let's see how that works.
Works in favor.
But since it was specifically, here's the tweet. You can just read it. If you're disappointed in Truth Social, we have the actual, real, no shit, censorship resistance, and scalability over at Den.social. That was it.
Remove the no shit part.
And rerun it.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Actually, we should do that to see what happens.
So there's an update on that. There's some. So I chimed in. There's some. There's so Truth Social is the Trump specific social media. There is a thing that I don't know if it ever existed or if it tried, or I don't know. There was a thing called Voice that was an EOS specific social media, I guess. There's this one called, all right, the ones that I like though, that I think are most valuable are called Matrix and Mastodon. Those are the ones that I think are like really, really good. So I would see how they work and see if, like, don't be annoying, right? Don't be like, Den, get off of Matrix and come to Den. I don't want to take anybody from Matrix or from Mastodon. But maybe they'd be interested in reading some articles that are relevant to the subject they're discussing that happen to also be published on Den, right? Original content. So that's what I would say is find really good original content, find people in those communities who care about that content, and then share it with them. If you want to advertise Den, you can share it with them. That way it's a relevant thing. Like, hey, here's some OC on, that you might like, whatever your phrasing is. And there's another one called Twitch that I've been trying to get into a little bit. A friend of a friend is really like hardcore into that social network. It's on BSV, which a lot of people have strong opinions about inside and outside of that community. And so it's kind of focused on, because BSV is one of those communities that, to be fair, get shit on a lot, I guess. They tend to like keep to themselves a little bit, and people tend to not go there. So it's sort of an isolated ecosystem. But they have an app and they have a website. It's called Twitch. What I don't like about it is like I'm stuck in a sign up loop where I keep having to enter my seed phrase. They do native on-chain, like you have a wallet on their thing. You know what I mean? Like any other crypto. It's a very crypto thing. So there's that. And then there's LokiNet. LokiNet has a social media site too. That one's going to be much more difficult for you to find because you've got to figure out how to get LokiNet running first. But that's something that I think could be really cool to expose Den's L1 node to, because then you could access Den.social via LokiNet.
So here's the thing that I seem to notice that we don't tend to do, that a lot of other places that are trying to create the decentralized social media type thing seem to do. Why do they all have to look like Facebook?
You're right. Voice did that. Twitch did that.
The Twitch.
Yeah, right. It's like, and this is the thing about Joe and I were talking. I don't know if it was on one of the Den.DAO calls or what, but Joe and I were talking about like how, for some reason, there was like a turning point, and crypto became about how people wanted to be involved with banking systems again, basically, right? Like, this was all developed to get rid of predatory banking and that kind of thing as being necessary. And then there's all these projects that are like, oh man, we could be like a bank. Let's do that. And that's the shit that's failing right now. That's the shit that's, like I said earlier, where you have targeted, regulate and away the competition. You also have banks and hedge funds that are I guess you could say liquidating away the competition. And but like, it's just the people that tried to be banks that are getting screwed. And I hate people losing money. I don't like to see that, but like, get out of banking stuff. Like, don't go to the cryptos that are a copy paste of a bank, and don't go to the social medias that are a copy paste of Facebook. Fuck everything about all of that. That's my opinion.
It's not, you can't just model something completely after the thing that you're trying to like get away from. That's not how that works.
I have this has got to be somebody from Gainesville, because they know. This has got to be somebody from Gainesville, because they know what Ginny Springs is. Ginny Springs is a really cool spot in our area where you can go and party and camp and swim the springs and have a grand old weekend.
4th of July is insane out there.
Yeah. So I'll pull this up and read it. Den wants to know less about you than a hookup at Ginny's during the 4th of July.
Dumb. Like a dumb thing.
Den wants to know less about you than your grandma after she finds you on OnlyFans. I love it.
All right, who is this person?
Roz.
Oh,
right.
I know Roz.
Always watching.
All
right, what else we got here? So that, I hope that answers that question, Dragon Chain Hodler. Unfortunately, I've noticed. So we have the Donald on Den, so that if anybody at Truth Social wants to be like, fuck that, let's just take over the Donald, that's available. And I noticed Dragon Chain Hodler is active in that layer, so that would be something that you could, like, I would trust you, sir, ma'am, madam, mixed gender person. I don't know who you are. I would trust you with handling that community. I just have enough experience with you. We disagree on Trump. You love him, I hate him, but I would trust you with handling that community. And that's what Den's about. All right, next, Computer Love. If you had to speculate, what layer of the news ones would be the most profitable? Thinking on buying lot off an owner, if possible. I'm sure that they would love that. Be careful and make sure you don't get scammed. But yeah, see if we don't have the ability to do lot swaps on Den yet. But that doesn't mean you can't over the counter, like OTC, do whatever you want. Yeah, so this is something where I think it would be a lot easier to answer that if we had the leaderboard, obviously. Because on the leaderboard, and that's one of our Den.DAO priorities, by the way. Let me bring that up while I talk about it. The leaderboard is one of the items in here, prioritization vote. If you go to the Den.DAO stuff, you can see what your weight is at the top. If anybody wonders what Distant has in Den.DAO, here we go on screen. We can talk about how you increase your numbers if you want. It's very easy. But I don't actually have, if you look and see, I don't actually have an overwhelming percentage of anything, which is good. It's the way I like it. So one of them is, where is it? Which one says leaderboard? Market, flags, reference, notifications, consensus, leaderboard, layer metrics, and leaderboard. So number 7. Right now we're working on anonymity, which is number 1. and we're working on one feature at a time. And then this one is basically drafted out and being worked on. I know we had a meeting with the devs yesterday and it was all fleshed out. So that's very good. Now, another one says layer metrics and leaderboard, add layer metrics needed for lot swap above, and would provide a layer leaderboard which ranks them according to matter productivity. So that's where you'll see, like, on one page, you can kind of see, okay, here's some related layers that my content might fit into. Which one of them has the highest average energy reward, energy application, or the highest average matter payout per post, right? So it'd be very, very easy for you to do that. And that needs to happen before, what did it say? Oh yeah, before lot swap, which was the other question. With lot swap, you can use that leaderboard and all of the data that is aggregated into that leaderboard to enable lot swap, and then you can actually kind of shop around on the leaderboard and know what you're swapping for objectively, right? So that's what I think that's the 1-2 punch is leaderboard and then the internal marketing features, or whatever else you want to vote for. All right,
Yeah,
go back here.
We're not giving you voting advice or anything.
Back. Okay, cool. So let me make sure that's not skipping any parts of the question real quick. Okay. Oh. Also, tip 5. I feel bad when I forget to tip out because I always say, leave me a good question and I'll tip you out. And sometimes I don't. And I'm like, oh, I'm a fraud.
Fraud. I like this megaphone picture you've got here.
Oh, with all the different, where's it at? The socials on it? Yeah. Yeah. I had to go find.
We have to get together at some point here so I can figure out what angry stuff I get to talk about at the next meeting.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. If you had to speculate. Okay. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Computer Love. And here's some matter points for you.
Workshop, literally. That's what I'm trying to say. The workshop.
Oh, the workshop. Yeah. I got like a whole plan for that. I just have to write it.
I'm ready to be an angry, denouncing the hypocrisies of our time.
All right, that's it. Cool. So that's the questions from the section there. Awesome. I will be right back. Let's play a little video for somebody. Let's pick a country and a language. We've got the same thing that played on the intro. I just want to do, this is not the end of the show. This is the halfway point. I just want to go get some more coffee and come back.
Intro. We have a slide card for one of the countries that's joining NATO.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, man, that's current events. Finland. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the next thing we're rolling into. It's
yeah, that's great. That's a good conversation. No, let's go Dutch, and I'll be right back.
Coffee time. Oh my god.
Op sociale mediaplatforms vandaag de dag gaat kwaliteitsinhoud vaak onopgemerkt voorbij. Op den krijgen gebruikers betaald voor het maken, evalueren en beheren van kwaliteitsinhoud. Contentmakers worden beloond op basis van de betrokkenheid en het bereik van een bericht of opmerking. Contentbeoordelaars worden beloond op basis van de snelheid en resultaten van hun voorspellingen over welke content trending zal zijn of viraal zal gaan. Eigenaren van communities worden beloond op basis van betrokkenheid binnen een community. Kwaliteitsinhoud loont op de.
All right, welcome back to the second half of Coffee with Den. We just had a good conversation in the reply section. Just a reminder, we typically put this up in the Den layer the day before. So sometime around Tuesday afternoon Eastern. It's usually something that you can just pop into if you think about it in the evening, Tuesday evening, and there'll be a post in there. And then you can just ask us stuff. I'm going to refresh this just to see if anybody asked questions while we were talking about them. And then we can go with that. Let's see here. And it looks like we've got I Am joining us for the second half. So that'll be great. Always interesting conversations there. So let me make sure nothing else is here. Passport Gang, got it. I'll just scroll to the bottom and see. Nope, good to go. All right. So round 2, fight. Current events. Let's bring I Am up onto where we are. I'm assuming that you've got yourself set up. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome. I can hear you. You can hear me. Looks like we're good to go.
Good. Oh, I got here too late for Dave.
No, you didn't. It's just that his microphone was on, and I noticed when I got back that like there was conversation being had in front of his microphone while the ad was running. So I just pulled it down off of it.
Did you get my bank PIN number? It's 5293.
Right.
Oh, okay, great.
Exactly. I didn't know what was being discussed or if it was customer information or what. I just saw it when I put my headphones back on. I'm like, oh, that's not how the ad's supposed to sound. There's English in there. This is a Dutch ad.
I was feeding the animals, doing my morning routine. Got up like an hour late. Allergies are going crazy, so excuse me for the coughing, clearing the throat, and all that good stuff.
Welcome back.
There he is. There he is.
I muted him. What were you saying?
So anyway, I got up late, gotten to the animals late, and everything else, and it was kind of funny.
Awesome.
And,
okay, you're unmuted. I just wanted to hear what he was continuing. I brought you in at a bad time. He was in the middle of telling me something.
Good morning, David.
Good morning to you. You're pretty much at this point. Do we just count him as an honorary co-host?
Yes. So
honorary
great point.
Sounds nice.
Mm-hmm. Ornery.
Honorary co-host.
Yeah. The ornery co-host.
Yeah.
So you know what? I hadn't even thought about this, but we need to talk about, and what a better place to talk about it than here. We need to talk about how to set up the new layer for coffee, because I want to I want to spin off into our own layer. I want to do a model similar to what World Blockchain does, where, right now you've seen I tip out matter to everyone who asks a question that we hit. I kind of want to tip out lot instead, or in addition to, or whatever. And we can come up with any kind of like tricks and gimmicks that we want. Maybe we try out some stuff that works. World Blockchain tries out some stuff that works, and then we cross-pollinate our strategies, stuff like that.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So
passing out lot is a great idea rather than MTR. To be honest, I think MTR will have value in the future, maybe significant value in the future, and it's it's a nice gesture and all that good stuff, but not financial advice.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's honestly, I've been like, the bear market is amazing. It makes you think about things that you took for granted, or they were convenient not to really process too deeply because it didn't seem to matter at the time, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And so I've been thinking a lot about, and this is like Gainesville stuff, the messaging here. Here's the mistake I made, is I saw, as somebody who like unironically would consider himself an OG Bitcoiner, I saw what I misinterpreted as another wave of potential adoption, and people are getting it in there and like, okay, it's not about Bitcoin like I thought it was going to be, but at least people are seeing like, oh, here's why this cryptocurrency thing is great, and Web3 and self-sovereignty and custody and sure, profits, that's amazing, and that can fuel even more awesome stuff. I get it. And so I started kind of, for lack of a better word, pandering to that. Right? Because I'm like, okay, you like play to earn? Den's play to earn. It's objectively play to earn. Like, we don't have to change anything. It's already play to earn. It's just
exactly.
how exactly. So I drive into that and I'm like, hey, play to earn people, come to Den. And then the people want NFTs, right? So we're like, NFTs? Oh yeah, we do that. We've got millions of NFTs. You want NFTs? Let's talk about that. Ours have utility, and you can hold on to them. And just by holding on to it, you get passive income. That's amazing.
But really, it's not a picture.
Right. Well, it's not a picture, but you can put a picture on it. Like if people want pictures, we can do pictures. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, since all the scams collapsed and the Ponzi's failed, and the people that were trying to be different versions of a bank are in trouble, and folks aren't seeing them as guaranteed easy money, which I don't know how they were in the beginning anyway.
Agreed.
But that's a lot of people. Those people are gone. And I hope they're not too ruined. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to be hurt. But what I've noticed is like the conversations that because it's not like I'm not going to stop. You know what I mean? Like I'm a military guy. The job is to make Den work, and I am going to do that for as long as it takes to make that work.
Right.
So like, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't care. Like, yeah, I wish everybody had more money, but I'm still going to do stuff. The conversations I'm having now are entirely different. It's like, I met a guy yesterday who runs a motorcycle shop. He's all tatted up, got crazy tattoos everywhere. Doesn't look like a crypto guy, looks like a motorcycle guy. But he's a Solidity dev, and he just got back. He just got back from NFT NYC, and so we started talking about. We were talking about like, wait, you what?
It's like you just got back from the Hells Angels tournament.
And so he starts picking my brain about how Den handles ERC20s and how it handles the ERC11s, and I'm like, like whether there's an interface on Den where somebody could come in and just input their contracts so that we know which token to watch and stuff. And I'm like, dude, you get it. You got it. All of that. Yes. Except not yet. There's a lot of stuff that isn't automated. There's a lot of stuff that's like a support ticket. Like, hey, we need some, some custom integration and stuff like that.
Oh, yes. But actually, no.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Just not like the way that you're describing it. Is the answer. You know what I mean? Like it's a custom integration where in the future it'll be automated, but right now it's manual because it's being built out. But it's like the shift away from prioritizing profits over everything is and I don't know, maybe I've been a little bit more vulgar lately just because we have adult content on Den these days or something, but there's just so many people that are like demonstrably fiat whores who only care about what they can eventually sell it back for to get back into fiat again. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
The concept of people understanding that it's a replacement as opposed to just like a way to generate more of something else.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. So, what were we talking about?
Well, I think we were talking about a DIN layer, but I mean a DIN coffee layer. But on that same note,
good morning,
having lived through these downturns, if you will, these 85-90% drops a few times, I get it, and it's a great way to kind of shake out the trees and let all that rotten fruit fall to the ground. And unfortunately, a lot of people get burned and then they don't want to touch crypto again. And I get it. I
feel like I have a black eye because of that. Like I do. Mm-hmm. I'm not involved in any of those schemes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I still feel like I have a black eye because I'm promoting like this is the way.
Right. And going back to, unfortunately, in my humble opinion, crypto kind of lost its way. It was supposed to eliminate third-party risk. It was supposed to be a like I say, a store value as well as. And I was a big block guy in the big fork, and I know David probably doesn't understand that. Back in the 2017 when the big fight with Bitcoin kind of broke into two pieces. All right, and I came out on the wrong side, because I was more on the BCH side. It was costly. It was very costly. I still think I was in the right, but that didn't, mean that my portfolio came out, on the right side.
There is an inconvenient separation of right and profitable.
Right. And then when all the big banks got involved and everyone's clamoring, we need an EFT and we need to be traded on the CME and all of these things. Well, that big money that you're inviting is like inviting the wolves into your hen house.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, this is great. Come in. And the wolves are just chomping at the bit and they're saying, hey, this is cool. I can devour 10 quick chickens and be on my way and move on down the road,
Yeah.
And then when we start putting up any kind of roadblocks, and what do? It says, hey, let's get Mr. Wolf, and Mr. Wolf is in charge of the whatever Senate committee in the US, and say, let's get some regulations. And then next thing you know, all the sheep are poisoned and saying, yeah, we need more regulations. That will bring in even more money. That will fix our bear market. And that was kind of how I felt like we lost our way.
I had a different experience that led to the same conclusion. I felt like the regulations being a positive thing was kind of a silver lining that people were talking about, where they're like, well, at least if we have regulations, there's going to be clarity on what we can do without getting sued and fined, or at least if there's regulations, this or that, you know what I mean?
Right,
And maybe that evolved into more, you know, but I think that's kind of where it started, where people were hurt and they're like, oh my God, well, at least with regulations that, you know, silver lining. And that became, I think, more than just a silver lining. It became the messaging, I guess.
Right. And I will agree, because from a taxation standpoint, crypto is a mess. You know, is it an asset? Is it a currency? How do we tax it? And then when you get into all these other things about DAOs and you know, Den.social, you know, and its issues with the SEC, and more importantly, like XRP, like you're talking about, you know, yeah, that's where you need that regulation. And people are inviting regulation. The problem I have with regulation is usually regulation is written to protect somebody else and not really protect the retail investor, the you and me small guys that we want to, you know, make some
right. The stated mission of the SEC is 180 out from their operations.
Right. And that's the you know, how now, having said that, I'm still very bullish on crypto and I'm fine with all of this downturn. I was a little fortunate. I could kind of see that ramp up, and so I moved a lot into which unfortunately into stable coins, which I don't like to be in stable coins, but I don't want to cash it completely out because I don't want a big giant tax, you know, issue.
Yeah. Or just the friction of like moving in and out of a particular class of assets. You know?
Right.
If you're at least in that class, then you can more easily make a pivot whenever the timing is right.
Right.
It's locked up in a bank somewhere. It's like, okay, well, I got to fucking wire it, I guess. And then after it wires, I got to then sell it for, you know, buy into, you know, like whatever coin again. And maybe, you know, like there's a whole process to get back into it. So even without the taxes, there's like just the friction. That's like when, I don't know. I remember like downloading music albums that were higher quality and easier to, it's more easily accessible than any official outlet that I could throw money at.
Talking about Napster?
Well, Napster, or even just like torrents and things like that. You know, it's like the accessibility, like, I don't know. It's just so easy to move in and out of stuff within cryptocurrency and blockchain. It's like, you know, you got to offer that. You got to offer that level of no friction to people, and that's how you compete. And eventually music got there, and okay, it's still restrictive, but at least there's readily available digital copies to download, you know?
Yeah. You know, switching gears here, David, I really like your master bedroom closet.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? Like I've got a toolbox here. I've even got a guy that like wanders around occasionally. Yeah, like my master closet here is wild. You like my impromptu show from the store?
I don't believe you. I really believe it's a green screen. And I bet I could probably find it somewhere on the internet and throw it up online.
If you find an image of this from the internet online, I'm going to lose my mind. So I'm going to be like, how is that possible?
Reverse image search, go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I am still locked out. Like he's still out on the street.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, he's not even back into his master bedroom closet.
I'm the homeless guy that's wandering the beach looking for, you know, something.
You're
a sand dollar.
You're a pirate beach bum on Twitter. That's who you are.
Yeah.
You're the Bitcoin maxi that's in El Salvador on the beach right now. That's who you
are. I'm looking for that ledger to wash up on the shore.
Yeah,
from Fluffy Pony's ledger that washes up on the shore from his boating.
Can you imagine a message in a bottle and it's a ledger? Or it's like even a thumb drive, but you know, whatever.
That'd be awesome. Hey, if it was a thumb drive in a bottle, I'd be pretty scared to plug it into my laptop.
I would find somewhere to plug that in.
Ledger in a bottle.
Oh, that's a good one.
Speaking of thumb drives, weirdly enough, a long time ago, I bought a copy of, I think it was Saints Row. It came out Saints Row 2, and it had this little flash drive in it. It was half a gig, and it was shaped like a bullet. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I lost it one day, and I found it 5 years later, buried in the yard, and it worked.
Oh, wow.
I'm still really surprised that it worked. And it just had like a pirated copy of something on it that was being transported.
Was it in a jar, or was it buried like just
it didn't have the lid on. Like the whole tip was just rusty and green. So, of course, I plugged it into my actual computer like an idiot, but it was fine.
So I got to tell you a funny quick story. So I'm your little paranoid kind of prepper dude. All right. And whenever we travel, and it doesn't matter if it's just a few hours up the road or something, I have one of those old fanny packs. You remember the fanny packs? Okay. So inside my fanny pack is I have about
I'll be right
20
back. You got this,
no
David.
problem.
Go get the fanny pack.
So I have this fanny pack, and I have like, what is it? 15 silver dollars in there, right? So if there's an economic collapse, I got my silver dollars to get me back to my bunker. All right. And I also have all my flash drives for my important data, right? Well, one day I was like, oh, I need to update a couple of those flash drives, and I get them, and then I go, oh, I need to put it back in my fanny pack so that when we go on a trip, I still got my data with me and all that, right? And then I forgot to put it in my fanny pack. And we're getting ready to go to the beach, and I'm like, oh man, where's my fanny pack? Oh, I got to put that in there. That's right. Now I couldn't find my fanny pack, and I'm in a panic because I can't leave the house and go to the beach if I don't have my fanny pack with my silver in case there's an economic collapse or a CME grid down scenario. And there he's got his fanny pack. There you go. I'll have to show you mine. So I have this.
Mine
Now,
in Columbia. I got it at an outlet store.
Oh, that's awesome. Now I have like 12 of these flash drives, and I don't know which is which.
Oh,
And it's like, oh no. So I'm gonna have to. I just threw them all in a plastic bag and grabbed the fanny pack and ran off. And I'm thinking, now I don't know which flash drive is which. So I have 20 of these things. I'm gonna have to plug them into the laptop, and which one is which, and then.
That's the day that it happens too, when you've just got like you're already frantically trying to find this thing, trying to get out of the house. Like, of course, there's always somebody else that's going to be like, "Oh my god, just leave the fanny pack," and it's like, "No, I'm
Exactly. You got to have that silver with us. We got to travel with our silver.
The day where you've just got a jumble of flash drives and don't know which one it is the day that something bad actually happens.
Right.
Just to add a little more stress to the world collapse.
So my wife, the logical one, she says, "Okay, sweetie, take a deep breath, and I need an answer." She says, "Sweetie, okay, if there's a grid down situation, are you really going to need those fucking flash drives?"
Exactly the way that it's the polar opposite of how I do things. Like when I'm packed and ready to go, I'm ready to get out of the door. I'll forget things in my house and not care at all. Just the mentality of being like, I must have this one item barely even computes.
It's like, no, that's what you're right. That's why I also have packed my SpaceX. What is it called? What do they call the internet grid satellite system?
The Starless guy.
Starlink. Yeah, that's
Starlink.
That's why we're also packing my Starlink satellite dish and this generator.
Yeah.
So you can send them off to somebody if anything has to happen. Speaking of the world collapsing, how's everybody liked the planet lately?
Well, I'm lucky. I live in a comfortable city in Florida, but I've been watching it.
You don't, shop at a mall in Ukraine.
Yeah, so I've been looking into that. In fact, I was on a so the mall in Ukraine thing is interesting because
They literally said
I think they bombed them all, right? And like it's exactly what, like, if you watch the Russian Federation's like official talking points during the response of that, they were like, yeah, I gotta like look back on it, but they didn't deny it. The interesting thing I think is let's see if I can share this without it being a problem. Hang on.
Yeah, be careful on the YouTube here with this topic.
No, I'm not going to share YouTube. I'm going to share.
Oh, I wish we weren't on YouTube. I have so much to say on this topic.
Because we're using YouTube to broadcast. That's fine. I'm not gonna spread disinformation. I'm gonna pose an interesting question based on something that I saw. So let's see if this works. Can I bring this up?
The other day.
No, it's not. It's something I saw this morning. All right. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring something up in Session Messenger. I just want to make sure that I don't have anything in the background that's like compromising.
Remind me to ask you something about Session. It's being quite weird.
Okay, cool. So Let's share this. Share screen. So if anybody doesn't know what session is like Signal, but without servers in the middle of your stuff and without phone numbers. Where's there? Got it.
Well, overall.
So this is not the mall that got bombed, as far as I know.
That's downtown Kiev, and that mall did get bombed much like about 6 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and that's in Kiev, that
Okay.
particular mall. And there is like kind of an underground parking over here. And
Yeah, so this is what I'm going to say.
and they did have military
yes.
vehicles inside.
Well, that's my next slide. Is so here's a shopping mall, right? Here, if you look at the structure, you can see the style of the structure here. And then there's this to the right that sticks out, the Sports Life thing, right? And under the Sports Life thing, there's a parking garage, right? Now, if we were standing on the other side of this looking back, right, you would see this. Now, if you look here at the top, there's the stripes coming down from the building. We're on the other side of that. And then underneath, there are military personnel trucks, it looks like, right?
Yep.
And so one theory is that the civilian infrastructure is being used to store military equipment, right? And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, or I'm not saying that's excuses bombing a mall. I'm not saying that makes it right or wrong or whatever. I'm saying it's an interesting point because apparently that's against international law.
That's right.
You know what I mean? No reason we should be doing that by any means. That's not.
It becomes a military target at that point.
This is that mall, right? So this mall this is not the one that most recently got destroyed, but this is the previous one, right?
Yes.
So because of that action, it could have prompted the reason why another mall was bombed.
Potentially. So interesting.
And as I understand, those malls also have like a grocery type store. It's pretty common. So, you're going to have your freezers and your refrigerators and all kinds of perishables of food. And this is where they could also store food for the troops, right?
Yeah, logically, yeah.
Logically. So, we don't know for sure if that happened or not.
Now, if I'm Ukraine and I don't have a comprehensive military infrastructure for things like this, I can see that. You know what I mean? Like, where do we have this infrastructure? But I think, I don't know what, so then you get into what is a war crime and what's international law and what is yada yada. And I don't know, do you take over it and take down the signs that say it's a civilian thing and say, I am here, we are military, and kick everyone out? Or, can you do that in a way that's not like violating some rules and stuff? I have no idea.
I'm going to wait for the SEC to rule on that.
Oh, yeah. You know what? They're a good judge of right and wrong. Yeah.
Oh goodness! Oh goodness!
That was the.
They're gonna the SEC is going to get into the physical security industry.
So we've got that. What's the other thing everyone's pissed off about? I just can't seem to remember. That's right. You're 50+ years of women's rights.
Yeah.
The Roe v. Wade thing. That was, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Like I
thought
to
just implement bullshit.
Is that me?
That's him.
Oh.
All right. He's going to go figure out whatever alarm that was that went off. So yeah, I'll pull his, in case there's somebody like customers walking through, I'll pull that video down. But yeah, sure. So the Roe v. Wade thing surprised me because I don't know, maybe it's naivety, but I was talking to Greg Lang of Rivet, and he did used to be a lawyer.
Right.
He was explaining to me that like there's these internal deliberations where people will say, okay, what is the argument this way and what is the argument that way? And if we were going to argue for overturning it, what would I argue? Like, what's the best argument I could make to vote this way, right? And that it could have been a leaked document from that sort of internal deliberations, and maybe that didn't imply what was actually going to be done, right? And then there was the whole part about how during the actual congressional hearings, they were all like, oh yeah, it's precedent and it's actually been reinforced several times in the past. So obviously it's like a non-issue. Right.
Right.
And then like, and this is still like, regardless of how you feel about it, whether it should or should not be repealed, this is what they said. This is what they said to Congress, And it's like, oh, well, they're obviously like, they're not going to lie to Congress. Isn't that a crime? Oh, how naive I was.
My son and I had uh, a, a long, deep discussion about it, and it's interesting because having kind like I'm quite a bit older than you. I'm in my late 50s, so with a young voice.
Yeah, I'm in my I guess you could call it late 30s. Yeah.
So I've if you I can remember as a kid this being something that was rare and not talked about, and it was rare. And then I remember the ruling in the 70s and my parents and their take and that kind of thing. And I grew up in a very, very conservative household, but my parents had a different take on abortion at the time that was opposing to the religious fundamental side of things.
I see.
So it was kind of a really strange dichotomy to listen to and hear them talk about it as a kid. And then it just became, well, I remember my father saying, I'm worried that this is going to become a popular contraceptive, and then it's not going to happen maybe in the first trimester. It's going to get expanded to the second and third trimester, and that's exactly what has happened.
Right. And see, that's a conversation we can have and that I'm willing to talk about, because I do think that, like, okay, easy target, late trimester, like late term abortions, kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it is.
Kind of weird. I think that I can be pro-abortion and still have that conversation about, like, okay, where can we put in reasonable, like, that's kind of, I don't know the morals of that, like if I can cut you open and pull the baby out and the baby's still alive, okay, I can see that being a conversation we have about whether or not you should be able to abort that baby. But that's not the conversation that's being had.
No, unfortunately not. And both sides are radicalized, if you will. And this is, for me, this is kind of one of those trigger points towards civil war, because there is no compromise now. There is no way for either side to come to some kind of compromise, and it's going to end up with a situation where people are going to vote with their feet. I think it's completely wrong for a state, and I'll give it to them. Okay, fine, great. Let's kick it back to the states. And I believe in small and smaller micro government, because that's the only way you can find corruption, is when it's small. And so kick it back to the states and let the states decide. Now, when a state says, hey, we're going to extradite you from the state where you had an abortion and bring you back and try you as a murderer. Whoa. No. Or you cannot leave the state to go have an abortion. No. I would think that the Constitution would have that freedom of movement, right?
Right. So
and that's where it's completely wrong.
And this is where the conversation should be, though, I think, is like, I'm all for states' rights. I'm all for, like, bring it down. I was saying it, like, recently, the longer I live, the more of an anarchist I become, kind of, is the thing.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I guess my thing, though, is that I see this as a human rights issue that maybe shouldn't be a states' rights decision. It's not a states' rights decision that you can't have slaves, for example.
That's exactly what my son said. It's a human right issue, and then the question is, okay, at what time and point does the fetus become a human?
That is the other. So that's the question being begged there, because that's the next issue to get.
Being a former libertarian, it was kind of strange, because the libertarian in me was, wait a minute, we need to protect this, women's rights here, and then wait a minute, no, when does this become a human, and who needs to step in to protect the unborn? It's a tough one. And
that's where I would like to see the greater conversation go, in a way that adults can have that conversation and figure out. I think that Roe v. Wade was important because it did recognize that there should be some limits on, what states' rights means when it comes to, like, how you can treat people by default. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like what we really did have with Roe v. Wade was, okay, you can make Roe v. Wade kind of is a states' rights ruling. It kind of did say, okay, you can make restrictions around it based on what your local population values, but you can't just outlaw it and like punish people for getting an abortion. It's kind of
Right.
what it says. So that seems fair to me. I don't know what the problem is.
See, and when I was a kid, and when we moved from Florida to the Northeast and lived in New Jersey, New Jersey, it was illegal to have an abortion in New Jersey, but it was legal in New York. So people just commonly left New Jersey and went to New York for their abortions. And that's how it was. And that's how it was. That's, yeah.
And you were talking about voting with your feet. That's unfortunately another, people talk about privilege a lot. That's kind of a privilege of movement, and being able to pick up and leave, like having the financial security to be able to just uproot and leave is not a choice on everyone's table either.
Well, I would argue, living a minimalist life, you can up and leave and walk somewhere else.
This is true. Yeah. If it is.
So it becomes a question of, do I want to stay in this location and be quote unquote oppressed, or but still have this particular lifestyle, or am I willing to trade some of my lifestyle and uproot myself and my family or whatever and move to another location where I think there may be either greater opportunity or less oppression? So I think that is a decision that we wrestle with all the time. Do I want to stay here? Because I personally am in that situation. I'm in Texas and I don't feel free.
My wife and I are strongly considering Germany. She's from Germany. We have family there. There's social infrastructure for us already. We visit all the time, and every time we visit, I'm blown away at the social liberties and the personal liberties that you are afforded in Germany. And growing up an American, and especially in the South, I'm from Florida, and it blew my mind that the first time I went to Germany, I was there for a week or 2 weeks or however long it was. And the takeaway was, holy shit, I feel more free there.
Yeah. Isn't that
you
sad?
know what I mean?
It's just sad.
Regardless of
what supposed to be land of the free. What happened?
Yeah. It's simple shit. It's things where they let you be an adult. They trust the individual to make the right choice as an adult. Their laws, I found myself agreeing with the laws, even though I don't like a lot of laws and state run stuff. In the US, you've very commonly, I think all across the board, you can't drive drunk, right?
Mm-hmm.
You also can't drive drunk in Germany. But in the US, any excuse to give you a traffic violation or a DUI to extract money out of you to give into the department, of that town's police force is abused to okay, if someone's driving home from work and they have a beer on the way home, they're not drunk, but they are in the driver's seat with an open container. And so that's a violation. You know what I mean?
Right.
In Germany, you can have a beer on the way home while you're driving. Nobody cares. It's not against the law. You just can't drive drunk. You know what I mean? There's a logical difference. And it just surprised me. I was like, oh, fuck, it's a logical law. Same as I bought a 6-pack at a store with mixed German beers. And I was like, cool. So then we put them in our backpack and started walking out. My wife was like, you can have one of those if you want. Because she saw how I was excited. Oh, look, I've never had any of these. But I'm like, oh, we're on the side. I can't just drink in public, can I? And she was like, they're yours, aren't they? And I was like, fuck you, you're right.
But now, where all the governments, almost all of the governments around the world went wrong and went haywire was with the jab juice.
Right.
With the big C, and then the whole you're not free to go, and they picked the winners and the losers as far as big corporations could stay open and others couldn't.
Yes.
And so they all went crazy and off the rails with the jab juice. And so Germany was one of those with mandatory jab juice and these kinds of things. And So, but on the other side, you have other freedoms over there that we don't have anymore here in the U.S. Um, and that's, I guess, we still have a high schooler at home, so we can't make a choice to move on or go somewhere else. I'm pretty radical, so I would be more than happy to. I'm almost to the point of like, I think we really need to rethink this and get a second passport and renounce,
Well,
But
and I hate to have that conversation even because I'm such a staunch American, but at the
Right.
same time, we've had the conversation about, okay, what does it take to get our marriage recognized in the German government? What does it take to get me a green card in Germany? That kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah,
And in this day and age, you can work anywhere online. You don't
Right.
have to physically be anywhere.
I don't have to stop doing like this if I leave to go to a different country at some point. I just
Yeah.
continue driving in from wherever.
Well, no, actually, in Europe, computer repair shops are much more appreciated. Like people actually have shit's more expensive, right?
Amazing.
The parts, the hardware, like people aren't just a consumer and then just throw it away once it stops working. They want to fix that shit. They want something and they want somebody who knows how to fix it. So you probably would do just fine. And most of them speak English. So you're good.
That's
Like
what we're gonna do.
one benefit of English is that most people speak it in the world.
I'm over here like, that means I have a location in Germany I can crash.
My wife, part of her family is in Mexico. She was actually born in Mexico, and then did 2 tours in Iraq and all that. So, there's a lot to unpack there. But Mexico isn't anything what the media says it is in the U.S. It's much safer than you think.
I've been hearing that ever since my grandparents told me that when I was a kid because they would go all the time.
I feel more comfortable going to one of the border towns that is racked with violence. Let's say Reynosa or Matamoros, in Mexico than I would going to South Chicago.
I was in Chula Vista when I was in the Navy. I was going to cruise missile school, learning how to do cruise missiles out in San Diego, and I lived in Chula Vista, and it had an apartment like you could see the border wall from my balcony apartment thing, and there was always police helicopters flying around looking for people at night, and there was always some crime thing going on, but at the same time I never felt unsafe, and I would just walk down to the tamale cart down on the sidewalk and get some tamales for $1 a piece, and everybody it wasn't like a war zone. It was just there's just a bunch of bad shit going on the border, and it isn't like it's not necessarily unsafe, but it can be, it can be. And we were definitely taught to. I was in the military, and they were taught to bring bribe money. We were taught, hey, if you go to TJ, bring cash. Because you're going to get shaken down by the police, and you need to they're bribing you, right? They're not going to say that, but you just give them money and they will let you go.
It's their job. It's their job. It's their job because, officer, I ran that red light. I didn't even see there. And actually there's not even a street light there. Oh, well, will $5 let it go this way? Yeah, $5 will work. $5 will work. Now, what he's going to do is he's going to keep $1 of it, and he's going to send $4 to his commander, and that commander is going to keep $1, and $3 is going to go up further up the chain, and up the chain, and up the chain, and that's just how it's done.
Yeah,
that's just, and Mexico is no different. U.S. is no different. We're just a little bit more sophisticated. It includes bank wires and regulations and bills that are passed and deals that are made in the hallways of Congress. And
a friend of mine is pretty good at putting on events and music festivals and stuff. And he put on a weekend music festival called Spirit Fest one year. And after that was all wrapped up, during a 2-day music festival, you need a lot of liquid on site to make everything churn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the artists and the hospitality and the bar sales and the vendors and the food and the ticketing, and you know what I mean? You need change, you need this, you need that. So, and then things you didn't expect, we need to go get a truck full of ice at last minute. So after doing all of the wrap up and spending a day, like making sure all the details are in order. They figured out how much money they had gained or lost or whatever it was. And he had to then drive across town with a bunch of cash and deposit it into the bank account. Well, halfway there, right between the VA and UF like Shands Hospital, his gas gauge doesn't work on his van. He ran out of gas.
Oh no.
So he pulls over into the median, and I don't know who he called first, but he called me. And he was like, look, man, I got a problem. I need your help. I need you to come down here and bring me a gas can and put gas in my van. I'm freaking out. I got X many thousands of dollars in cash, and I'm not afraid of being robbed. I'm afraid of a cop stealing it.
Exactly. With the what's those laws called? Where they
called civil forfeiture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so wrong.
So even with here's how civil forfeiture works in practice.
Scary stuff.
Is you have $40,000 in cash. That's suspicious. We're going to confiscate that. If we're wrong and you have a legitimate reason to have this $40,000, you can come down to the police department and you can pick up your $36,000. All right. Just sign here and we're happy to walk you back here and pick up your $30,000. And we're sorry for the inconvenience. All right. That's how it works. Like
exactly.
It's cash. It's fucking cash. It disappears. Right. And the numbers get changed on paper. You know what I mean? It's not on chain.
Yeah.
None of it's on chain.
See, that's my concern 9 times out of 10. When I have anything that I don't want somebody to take, I'm not usually concerned about people taking it. I'm just like, if I get pulled over right now, this would look weirdly suspicious to somebody, even though I have a more than legitimate reason for it.
I'm not necessarily like full on anti-cop, but I can't. I would be lying if I say I ever felt protected when I saw a police officer in the United States.
No, I actually get a weird feeling in the pit of my stomach.
Yeah, I feel nervous, and that's it.
It's they tried even in school. I remember they would have cops come in and be like, "This is friendly officer Jimmy, and he just wants to talk to you about this." And then they go into this tangent about like drug laws and shooting people.
I learned so much about drugs from the DARE program.
DARE is the thing that made me want to do drugs. Did not help at all. What was Pee Wee Herman being like, "This is crack," did not help at all.
It's like, thanks for letting me know.
I identify that now.
Yeah,
I just had an image. So picture a lawyer in a nice suit standing on a street corner, holding a cardboard sign that says, "I will work for civil forfeiture."
That's like the ones that say, "I don't get anything if you don't win anything." That kind of thing.
We don't charge you unless we win. Like, sure,
Yeah, so it's a wild world.
Speaking of wild worlds, and you said you're in Texas, right?
Yes.
What about this truck full of people we got?
Oh gosh,
I don't know anything about
it. It's not the first time.
Dude, it's
obviously
so bad.
It's
Did
so
you not
bad.
hear about this?
No, I've seen nothing about this personally.
A truck full of dead migrants, essentially, in San Antonio.
Back of a trailer.
50 something up.
Yeah, was it 51?
Yeah,
damn, dude.
Some of them are still alive.
That's so sad. Did they find it during a crossing, like in motion, or was
No,
it?
it was all the way. It's 250 miles north of the border.
Apparently, they just were. A guy was out doing some work and saw the truck and opened the back and just heard like somebody say something from the back of this tractor trailer, and he opens the back and there's just like people in there, all nice and toasty. Apparently, it was like 100 and.
So they were trafficked. They probably paid for it, what their families did. And then they were trafficked with the promise of getting them across. And then somebody brought them across and just left them there to bake and die.
Well, probably more than likely, the reefer unit failed. And so the driver then knew that he probably had dead people in the back and bolted. Now you think think that through. Okay, so is the truck and trailer stolen, or did the driver? It's just like a hit and run accident. Someone leaves the scene of their vehicle, but the car's registered and licensed to somebody and owners and somebody. It's sick. It's really sick. And
we no, that's the first I'm hearing of that. But that sounds like what I would see in. So when I was in Somalia for a little while doing piracy interdiction and human trafficking ops and stuff like that with my ship.
Wow.
And we found things like, boats full of people coming from Oman or something down, around to Eastern Africa as a human trafficking route and stuff like that. And it's you find shit like that. It is like that, where there's like the way that people are treated is so, like, I don't understand it. I never understood it, except to just like people exist that have no sociopaths exist, right? That have no empathy and things like that.
No empathy whatsoever.
So I don't know, man. It's that shit saddens me for sure, and especially because I know how prevalent it is globally. It isn't a U.S. problem specifically. Now it is a U.S. problem, but it's not like it's unique to the U.S. And I don't know what the answer is other than give people hope who would otherwise pay someone shady to get out. There has to be some sort of, this is why I like the internet, this is why I like blockchain, this is why I like metaverse stuff, is it gives you kind of like another dimension of possibility where, okay, maybe you can build something where you currently live, right? Maybe Starlink is prevalent and free and accessible, and somebody in your village buys a Starlink satellite dish and then hooks it up to a router to give a mesh network Wi-Fi, and now you all are able to work online.
Right.
This is the kind of shit that I feel like if you don't push people if we can somehow take the edge off of hardship to where people aren't willing to literally roll the dice on their life to get out of it, then maybe we can save lives. Maybe we can save brain power. Like, think about how creative and useful people could be if they were just allowed to live and prosper and chase their dreams. That's what I want.
Each of those people who passed or rode in the back of that trailer kicked money into that trucking company or whomever, a coyote, as they're called, to bring them across the border, to get them further north. Because 60 miles north of the border is a checkpoint. And when you drive on the highway going north from the border, you hit this checkpoint. And the checkpoint, there's a border patrol officer who says, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" Yes, or okay. Mm-hmm. And they have a dog, and the dog walks around the vehicle and sniffs for their drugs or whatever. They ask you to roll down the back windows so they can look in the back, and sometimes they might ask you to, if you got an SUV, open up the back. Most of the time, they're just going to wave you on. U.S. citizen? Yes. Okay. Have a good day. Bye.
Maybe get a little
U.S. citizen? Yes.
Yeah. Look under the wheel well, just check.
Right. Now, having said that, and my little bit background here in logistics and living on the border, the Border Patrol also has scumbags working for them that have been paid off by the coyotes and the cartels. Right. And they know that a truck is going to show up at precisely 6:15, and he's supposed to go to lane 2 or lane 1, and that particular truck is going to get waved. U.S. citizen? Yes. Let me see your bill of lading. Yes. Boom. And the truck moves faster than the dog can get around to the back and maybe sniff the truck for either drugs or whatever. Now, when you go to this checkpoint, there's actually sniffers that would detect maybe uranium, other things. There's X-ray machines. Yeah. But these Border Patrol agents, majority of them are solid, doing their job. But all it takes is just one of them to let this truck with 51 through of people in the back of that trailer go through or get through. And it only takes one. And it only took, one to gather up that money and pay off the truck driver.
Yeah.
Or gather up that money and pay somebody to steal a truck and trailer and drive it up north. And at precisely 6:10, go to lane 3, where it's going to get passed and let it go further north. And this could be a truck driver who's inexperienced with the reefer unit and doesn't know that the reefer unit, if it fails, you know what I mean? And now they're panicked. Because I'm just going to park it on the side of the road, kind of in a hidden place, and run.
Yeah.
God,
And
somebody got paid for it, and they still got paid for it, regardless of those people being dead or alive.
That's
So that's
no matter how
interesting.
tight of an operation you run, if it is a system that is run by humans, you get a certain percentage of people that are that. You know what I mean? And it's going to make its way into your system no matter how tight you run it.
Yeah. It's
Well,
sad. It's just sad. It's just really sad. And I get it, because these people probably have feelings of no hope in their home country,
Right.
and
That's right.
there's a hope in a country to the north.
It's like people that pay the massive amount of money and the insane amount of difficulty it is to get out of North Korea.
And that's
They get shipped over to South Korea, and then they spend the rest of the time that they're there being worried that the people that come and take them that didn't exist apparently in South Korea, who totally do, are going to come and just nab them and take them back. Like I couldn't imagine living like that.
Right.
Yeah, very commonly it is the case where you'll have a representative, quote unquote, of a company who offers to take your children and find employment for them in some country. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like the family will pay for it because they will sacrifice themselves if it means their child having a better life. You know what I mean? But that's just the story. Maybe sometimes it's true. I don't know. But
one comment is El Salvador with a change to Bitcoin as a legal currency in their home country.
Yeah.
My gut tells me that down the road, that country is going to become much more prosperous, and less people, hopefully, will take these ugly trips to the north for looking for a new future.
It just reminded me of what I was saying earlier. It's kind of related to what I meant about, some people, like, voting with your feet puts you into that position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that's your only way to vote with your
Exactly.
feet, then you're putting yourself in danger that way. So like that's who I want to try, if I can at all, with anything that I do in my life. I've got a certain number of decades here, hopefully quite a few more. I want to do something for people, and I feel like this is something I can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always wanted something like, okay, what's my part? What's my role? I think I understand this enough to like, maybe this can be my thing. So that's just my, like, I decided that a long time ago. That's why I'm so aped into Den, basically.
And Den's perfect, because I believe in the idea and the concept of post to earn and evaluate content to earn.
Yeah.
And that's why, and unfortunately with the F fees, which you and I have talked about, and to circle back to Den, that's why I want to see, Polygon being one of the cheapest and most stable, blockchains out there, to be some kind of swap mechanism inside of Den, so that people can actually, in some of these poor countries, they have so much to offer, so much information that we maybe in the Western world have no clue about. And they could have some amazing postings in their own language, and we can use the wonders of internet translations to read their stories and to read about what's going on in their home country, and they can actually earn something. And where $1, $5 a day can go a long, long way for them. And that's what's beautiful about Den, in my opinion. But it has to have that on and off ramp.
Yeah, and here's that, like you said it earlier, not financial advice thing, but here's where business-wise, I feel like it is, we see it already when people pay for a layer to be created after LCP. You see it when people like Litecoin Lisa went out to Uniswap and got some lore to bring in to vote on the firearms layer.
Mm-hmm.
And you see things like that where the more, it's a two-way street. So if you reduce the friction on withdrawing, you're also theoretically reducing the friction on depositing. And so if somebody did want to have more influence on Den, they could simply acquire more on a DEX and deposit it without incurring a $200 fee or whatever it is.
Right.
And then that potentially could bring, now that two-way street is where, in my head, this is like the business thing where it's like, you got to make sure that's balanced to where it's like a flip-flop circuit, or a kind of some sort of harmonic thing where there's adoption and there's utility being executed, I guess, or whatever the word is, which counteracts the drain on the internal economy by people who need to eat, and so they sell their matter, and that's all they do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have such a variety of humans with completely different like takes on what Den is to them. And a lot of them aren't, maybe a lot of people don't need to squeeze money out of their computer. They just want to have a censorship resistant place that doesn't prey on them through advertisers and collect their data and sell it and stuff like that.
Right.
So you get those people on board, and they will be kind of like a counterweight to people who are here for the earning, withdrawal, and sell potential. And so the more of that you can put together and make it like this humming sort of like organic machine, the more impoverished, low income, what's the low privileged people
Mm-hmm.
and can be uplifted, can be supported, that way. So that's
Well,
kind of thinking.
I would, you are 100% correct on that. I would only add that the individual that is trying to cash out to squeak out just a little bit of income, that say lives in a second tier or third tier country, is posting and evaluating on Den. What they're going to also do is they're going to tell their friends and family, hey, if you post on this thing, you can, make just a little bit of money, just like I'm doing, and have a better life. And that they're going to tell their friends and family and others, and that's going to create more of a demand also for, MTR.
Yeah. And that's great. I just worry about, so that is the, I want to be careful how I say this, and not because of the SEC, but because I don't want to offend anyone.
Sure.
That is the right type of denizen that we want to bring on board. What I don't want, though, and this is where I'm not sure on. This is where I need like the help of the community to figure out what to do. Right? That's the whole point of the DAO. Is like, okay, here's what I'm not sure about, and what I'm not sure about is if we focus on people who we know objectively are primarily concerned on how much matter they can make for their local use so they can swap it into a local currency.
Mm-hmm.
And we ignore people who are in it for, pseudonymity or censorship resistance or like new model kind of thing. Or if we just focus more on one type of person than the other, we unbalance that system.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So a pretty good overall of what people are here and what people get focused upon, which is nice.
And the only reason I bring that up is because I've been thinking a lot about this last like bear bull market cycle where, like, is it really good to go after people that are into cryptocurrency because we're based on blockchain? Or is that a bad thing because that's going to be a sap on, like, what if some crypto bro is taking all the matter when somebody who actually needs it could be doing it instead? I guess is what I'm getting.
I think you get both. You get both.
Like for instance, with me for Den here, it's like I have no real desire to sit here and squeeze a whole bunch of cash out of it and find out how much matter I have and whatever. I get to sit here on Wednesdays and chat with people and have like a nice, talk about a platform where I know nobody is watching what I'm doing and selling my data to people.
Right. I'm not going to go to Amazon and be served with an ad based on something that I posted on Den,
Nothing even
or whatever.
Oh, wait a minute, guys. Hey, Alexa, order me some more MTR and have it delivered to my door.
Nice.
Now, it's at some like you would have a spy device in your house, but at some point now you're just going to have like a box show up at your front door. It's just some unknown matter, just some gray goo in a jar,
some gray matter,
gray matter in a jar.
Hey, it looks like Roz has got a good question. Roz,
I wanted to. We've got 10 or 15 minutes left before Gravity Crab's got to go to work more thoroughly. But I wanted to talk about this too, because it's a great question. Do you ever wonder, or do you ever worry, blockchain is setting up an infrastructure that can be abused by those in power?
Every day.
My answer to that is I acknowledge it, but I don't worry about it, because what exists right now is an infrastructure that can only be abused by those in power, and it's unfair. So everybody should have a fair playing field.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother. I would only argue my biggest worry would be the CDC, the central bank digital currencies. that is the blockchain, which really isn't going to be a blockchain. It really isn't going to be a cryptocurrency. So in a sense, that
No,
doesn't.
it's going to be a centralized ledger that
Yeah, but they're
is.
going to sell it as
It could be.
blockchain. And
Now
blah,
it could
blah,
be. Well, there will be probably be a blockchain too. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It'll probably be account based, like Ethereum, and not UTXO based. You know, and like they won't be like bearer tokens. They'll be. You can't use your official government. What do they call it? CBDC
Yeah,
wallet
CBDCs. Mhm.
to buy this type of food because we don't think that you are making healthy decisions for your family based on the income you have. And so we're going to turn off the ability to spend these on certain items. And so you can only buy that.
Or you had derogatory comments about politician X and politician Y. So we're going to go ahead and curtail how much money you have in your account. Or you're going to get a fine because our traffic cam saw you cross when
Yeah.
the crosswalk and you stepped out of the crosswalk. So we're going to deduct another 100 credits from your CBDC
Yeah.
account.
But on the other
It's
end,
all those social credit and issues. That's what worries me. Now, as far as the government being able to block, go in and say, stop Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other blockchain out there, I can see how them pushing laws to make them illegal in the country, but completely killing it, I don't see that happening.
this is the thing about the laws that I get pissed off about is because all of this applying law to things that the law wasn't written for, that doesn't even fit square peg round hole stuff. Like we already have laws against fraud. We already have laws against like business practices that are predatory. Well, some of them. We have things are illegal already, so we don't have to like pretend that we need I don't know, like if somebody does something that's obviously bad and illegal, it doesn't. And this, see, now I'm arguing the SEC's point, but use the existing laws on not the technology though, but on the fuck, I don't know. Maybe they just don't understand the difference. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side, I guess let natural market forces.
The more I definitely didn't like it.
Let natural forces be the determinist. I don't know.
Thanks for that question, Roz.
Yeah, great question. One other comment to his question about blockchain and government manipulating blockchains or altering blockchains. They can do it obviously from a financial standpoint because they can print as much money as they want, and then they can alter that price like Bitcoin on the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and bring the price down that and then throw up all the kind of money that they want into financial news channels to talk about how bad Bitcoin is or cryptocurrencies are as a whole. That's how they can manipulate and alter a blockchain, but through external forces and not internal blockchain altered.
It's really easy to pay for the external forces when you can just push a button and money flies out of a machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where like maximalism, Dave, comes back a little bit, because there's also this, like, there's not enough thought on the mining question too, and this is where proof of stake opponents would step in and say, hey, hang on now. You're saying that the ability to modify the ledger should be given to whoever has the most, that kind of thing. And this is where I like proof of work, because you can't assume that just because it's a blockchain and just because it's a distributed ledger, that the information on it is factual and accurate. Because if you have a majority of the network, because you're a government creating a government token and a government coin and all that, then you could, in a thought exercise anyway, you could be like, well, if they have all the miners, then they can just decide what's true arbitrarily, even if it's not. You know what I mean? You can rewrite blocks. You can
51%, 51% of the miners. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that can just be part of your business operation, where if anybody disagrees with you, you just 51% your own chain to make it how you want it, and nobody will care or know who's using it because they're not blockchain and crypto people. They're just normal everyday Americans.
Right.
So yeah. So cool. The future looks bright.
I agree. And I got my fanny pack full of silver, so
Yeah.
I'm good.
God, your fanny pack full of silver. We were at a pizza place. We were at Satchel's, and
That's an album title.
one of your friends was trying to convince Jackie that fanny packs were coming back, and she had this like leather one with a jewel on it, and I kind of want a fanny pack now.
Yeah. It could be a thing. We could be at the forefront of the fanny pack revolution.
I was strongly on Tina's side of no fanny pack, so I feel like I can't switch sides on her there.
Cool.
Going back to that 51.
I hope they do come back.
Going back to that 51% attack or 51% control of a blockchain, or if you think about it, wow, this is a segue back to Den. If you think about it, that's what we're doing in with the postings and the evaluations is we're getting the majority is saying, yes, I agree with this posting, that this posting is more factual, so I'm going to upvote it. And prediction markets, it's interesting, people usually get it right. And you think of it in those terms of prediction markets and people getting it right, that's essentially what Den is doing, which is real exciting.
Right. People who have skin in the game participate in a prediction market, and they're incentivized to be a good actor because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And also to make good predictions. Yeah. So I guess there's a conversation I haven't made these tags yet, but there's a conversation right now in the mining layer about what tags we should get in there. And one of them is like, okay, how narrow should they be? Because we could tag this up as if it's, the differences in metal subgenres, or we could call it metal, and that applies to all metal. You know what I mean? So like proof of work is kind of what Den is doing, but they're just using humans instead of like CPUs and ASICs, I guess, like
using humans.
Yeah.
Using humans.
Yes. Like any other company does, they use humans to perform tasks that need to be done to keep it operating efficiently.
Right.
And back to messaging, it's like, that's really what you're doing on Den is there's a modeled collection of tasks that if you do them and you're good at them, it doesn't matter who you are, you get rewarded proportionally, compared to everybody else doing it. So yeah, I would just say, let's go out on that. We got a bunch of cool tools coming up. Did you remember, anybody else remember Cool Tools? It was like when we were children, Cool Tools. Like
no, I don't.
They had a jingle. Yeah, those plastic tools for kids. Anyway, so we've got a bunch of cool tools and more coming. And if you're interested in that kind of thing, take a look under the hood. If you're not even a crypto person, just like a social modeling enthusiast, and come to the meetings on Thursday. There was a discussion in one of the new layers recently about like it basically came down to it sucks you didn't catch that, but to be fair, this has been very like publicly discussed and talked about on chain and all that stuff. If Den is important to you, check out the Den DAO meetings and maybe leave us a question. So we'll be on there Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're talking about anonymity, which is interesting. I want to talk about a couple of different like business models I've invented in my head for eroticism and stuff like that. Because I think that now that we have both the ability to manage age restricted content and the ability to post anonymously, like people who are into that or content creators could literally like for one example, you could spin up a new layer. Maybe you have an adult content company, and then all of your creators get a pseudonym, like a new account on Den to publish under, so you don't have to identify or dox yourself. And then all the layer owners would be them. And then in the layer, you could enforce anonymous posts only, so that you don't have to dox yourself, but you can produce content, and then you all just share the rewards of the content. Because in anonymous posts, any matter mined doesn't go to the poster because we don't know who you are. You're anonymous. Instead, it goes to the lot holders, right? Mm-hmm. So we're seeing different, now that we have a whole bunch of different tools coming in, we're seeing ways that you can plug them together now. sort of like the entourage effect of, okay, it's even more powerful together if you want to do this or that, you know?
Right.
So
It's
I'm
all
out of my,
about-
and the last thing I'll say about the eroticism layer is I'm out of my element there. I don't know how to manage that kind of community. So if anybody does have experience with that, I won't say who you are, but hit me up and we can talk about it. And I'd be happy to give you ownership of some of that to get, you know, decent people that are skilled at keeping a community like that healthy, you know? So
Yeah, that's out of my element. I'm
yeah, I don't
out
know.
of my wheelhouse league.
So far, it's great. We have an avocado with butt cheeks for the avatar.
Waiting for
that
post,
was
like,
our
the saucy image.
yeah. And then right now there's a banner that is barely holding the line. There's 48% consensus, but one person's against it because it is not their preference, which is perfect. We need people to vote how they feel. So check out the new layers. Firearms is great. I think that's going to be something I'll be involved with. I hope to see Litecoin Lisa and Clint Westwood over there in the future. I hope that happens.
Nice.
And then we have got world news and we've got DIY, which is like the people's maker layer. The maker layer is a business layer owned by one person, and the DIY layer is an LCP with a hard cap owned by the community. So it'll be interesting to see the difference between a freebie business layer, which is basically what that was, versus something people had to work hard to acquire. And I'm predicting the DIY layer will be more successful. And nothing against Dragon Sloth, good friend of mine. It's just I feel more liberty talking about that because he's a friend of mine. And so yeah, check all that out, and do check out the other shows. Monday, for example, I've been doing office hours, which is like not a show, but just kind of like if anybody needs any advice or wants to ping me on a question or let me do a demo live. I knew I was going to do something in that slot. I just didn't know what it was. But as it happens, I reached out to some friends, and there's a lot of stoners among my friends. So we're going to plug Monday 10 a.m. in as a new show. And so this is the announcement, I guess. A new show Monday mornings. I do not believe it will be next week. Theoretically, it could be, but realistically, this will be the first. This will be a pilot episode where whoever I can get comes on, and we literally design the show on that one. And then we're going to meet every Monday morning at 10 a.m. We're going to have get your week together, talk about cannabis. We have a very good list of topics running. There's work being done on this already that I don't have to do, which is amazing. Because I can facilitate a ton, but there's not a lot of room for me to do much more, sometimes. So check out the Cannabis Lair and tune into that show. We don't have a name for it, so suggest one if you want. But it's going to be it's stoners, of course, but it's also going to be there's a lawyer. So we've got several licensed patients. We've got a lawyer who is also has a license. We've got anyway, the personalities are great. I think it's the right time for that show. So that'll be the newest show on Den. That'll be weekly.
Cool.
Other than that, super happy on Tuesdays, World Blockchain on Thursdays before the Den.social call, and go ask us a question. This week's NFTs on Instagram, and I don't know a ton about NFTs or Instagram, so ask a specific question so that we have something to look into. So yeah, that's what the new stuff is, and then vote in the Den.social stuff. There's Den.social things. There's a little gavel on the right. Click on the buttons, vote on the things. And it'll be great. Let's look at the comments real quick to see if we have anything else last minute. Oh, you know what? There we go. Our new OnlyFans layer.
Oh my God.
Oh, I love it. That could, you know what? Okay, food for thought.
That could be the name of that list.
Let's see. Anything else?
The hell was that?
Anything else? I am.
No, I think that's it. Everybody have a safe day. Don't forget your fanny packs when you're traveling with full of silver, and your data devices to store your backups in case of a grid down situation.
Yeah.
I got a couple of silver eagles I think I'm going to start, putting around now so I can be just prepared in case.
I know of one family who travels around, and everywhere they stay, if they make friends there, they leave a thumb drive behind. Hey, there's a phone ringing. They leave a thumb drive.
Go ahead. I'll take my leave.
All right.
Have a wonderful
Get out of here, Gravity Crab. Thank you again. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Gravity Crab.
But yeah, they'll leave a thumb drive with a new wallet with a portion of their Bitcoin on it at their house, so that, and then they'll keep in contact. It's encrypted. They can't use it, but they'll keep it for them, you know? And so now what they've got is a network of global locations where if they need something, they can be like, all right, I know somebody that's, 3 hours away. Let's pop in and grab our thumb drive over there, that kind of thing. So
cool.
All right. So thanks again, everyone. I'll see, what is today? Wednesday. So I will be on the World Blockchain Show and the Den.social call tomorrow. So if you want to see my ugly mug, that's where I'll be. Disheveled Dave. Maybe I'll brush my hair. Thanks for joining us again. I am Fram. You always have really interesting insights, and I appreciate you.
Thanks. Likewise.
All right.
Likewise.
And here's Enter the Dragon from Denizen Y'all Weird. Have a good day.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, raw capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.